I'm Max Gerston, and I'm out here with Dirt Rider Magazine, going over some suspension tips on an EnduroCross track out here at Area 15. All right, so here we are at the first obstacle of my EnduroCross track. It's a big log. Before I get into it, I want to go over some sag stuff because I'm not going to change the sag from section to section. As far as sag is concerned, you want to develop a sag setting that works for you. I know a lot of guys that run a little bit higher. I know some guys that run a little bit lower. Me personally, I go a little bit lower than what would be considered a medium setting. So I probably run my sag right around like 108 millimeters or so. That just seems to be what works well for me on my 350 beta. So you're gonna wanna set it, you're gonna get used to it, and you're gonna wanna leave it. You usually aren't gonna wanna change that from track to track or obstacle to obstacle. And the reason is because it'll probably just make you go backwards. You really just want to learn how to ride with it and get used to it, and that's what's gonna be the best thing for you for sag. Now, the most important suspension setup tip for a big log like this is gonna be compression. The reason is we have minimal dirt in front of the log here, so that's gonna put a lot of pressure on our forks and our shock when we come up over it. So we want a firm setup. Not super stiff, but not plush. We definitely don't want it plush because when we hit that log, we're gonna be coming in at speed, and we want that bike to be able to absorb it how it's supposed to and not travel all the way through the stroke and then deflect us left, right, up, down after the log. In this case, that whole theory is amplified because we have rocks afterwards. So we really want to come off the backside of this log with a balanced chassis, because if not, then we're going into a nasty rocks without a balanced chassis. I mean, that's just not what you want. So you want it to be firm, come up and over, and then so you can get back on the gas or be balanced. So you want the first 4 inches nice and soft like always, and then after that, you want to firm it up nice and quick so that you can stay balanced coming over a log like this. So up next here, we got this huge double. Take off right here and land on those tires. And what makes this situation a little bit more complicated is we have a really short run up. With that being said, we're gonna want kind of a firmer compression for the face of the jump so we don't blow this through the stroke. And because this jump has a log on top with a little bit of a kicker, that's gonna make rebound very important as well, because we don't want it to be too fast and we don't want it to be too slow. So backing up a little bit, compression wise, if our suspension is too soft coming up the face of this, we're gonna travel through the stroke and we're gonna go through the jump, not over it. And that's not what we want. So you want it to be firm so it stays up in the stroke, so it transfers that energy up and out. For the log at the top, like I was saying, rebound is gonna be really important, because if the rebound is too fast, it's gonna kick us up and over the handlebars like that, and nobody likes that. And if it's too slow, we're gonna kind of overcompensate for it naturally, and it's gonna kind of kick us up like Larry like this. You don't wanna be Larry. So you gotta find that happy medium where it stays up in the stroke and the rebound just pops you just enough so you get a nice even chassis over the whole jump, and you hopefully downside the backside of those tires nice and smooth. All right, here we are. We're over here at the firewood pit. This is probably the nastiest section on an EnduroCross track. The reason being, you got round logs, short logs, fat logs, skinny logs, every kind of log you can imagine. Some are square, some are round, and every single one of them wants to throw you on your head. So with this, contrasting the last two obstacles, we really want our suspension really soft for this. I know it sounds crazy all on the same track, but that's just how it is. When you come through the firewood, there's so many different angles and so much going on that you want your bike to pretty much just plow right through it. Now when I say plow right through it, I don't necessarily mean sink all the way in, but you want it to kind of just soak up anything that you're throwing at it. So a soft compression matched with a little bit quicker rebound to get those tires back on the ground and stay in the initial part of the stroke is very, very important here. What we have here is a rock pivot turn. This is a left-hander. We come in, pivot, and then exit the rocks going that way. What's really important here is that we weight that rear end. The reason being is we have a lot of loose, sketchy, slippery rocks, and we really want to weight that rear end coming out. Now what we're going to do that is we're going to lower our forks and our triple clamps, which is going to raise the front end just a little bit, and we're also going to soften up our high-speed compression. What that's going to do is it's basically just going to transfer the weight of the motorcycle that's already there onto the rear tire just a little bit more, and it's also going to give us a little bit lower seat height, which is going to be a little bit easier to stick your foot out just so you have something to pivot around. Here we have the matrix. In the video, you're gonna see that I was just doubling these two logs right here. The reason is because I didn't have a whole matrix set up yet, so I'm kind of in the process of working on that. but we can still kind of demonstrate how to properly double this. And we can also demonstrate how to ride over this if there was logs before it and after it, like a true matrix would be. Two key factors on this for a matrix on bike setup is high-speed compression on the shock and the tightness of your steering stem. I run mine a little bit tighter just so that if it's on a stand, it's just tight enough so that the bars don't fall when you turn them to the side and let go. The reason is it's going to keep your front end from wanting to knife to the left and to the right when you hit these logs, because no matter what you're going to do, you're not going to be able to hit these things square on. Even if you do hit them square on, your bike is still going to want to turn and knife on you. So a little bit tighter steering stem is going to help a lot more than you might even think it would. But along with that, high-speed compression. The high-speed compression is going to be more along the lines of like once you get a little bit more advanced in the matrix and maybe start doubling them. The reason is when you hit this log to either double it or just wheel into the next one, you don't want your shock to travel too far through the stroke. If it goes too far through the stroke, it wants to hang up on that log and it soaks up all your energy, so it's going to be harder to get over that next log. So you want actually a little bit stiffer high-speed compression. All right guys, so here we have a laid down rock section with different sized rocks. Some are moving, some are not. We have rocks everything from this size right here all the way up to something bigger like this that's not going to move on you. With that being said, really important factors is going to be suspension plushness. You want to go for plushness here. High-speed compression on the shock and regular compression on the forks with a little bit quicker rebound is going to be key. And the reason is because you want that shock to move, but with rebound, you want a quicker rebound so it will come back and stay in the soft part of the stroke. That's going to help transfer the energy to the rear tire so you can get traction. It's also going to help not transfer the energy all the way up through the bike and into your seat or into your foot pegs so you're not getting kicked around the whole time. You can also lower your forks and your triple clamps a little bit. That's just going to take some of the weight off the front end. It's going to make it a little bit easier to steer and put your front end where you want in these rocks. Here we have laid down tractor tires. Now, don't even try to set your suspension up for these because they are so inconsistent. With that, you might say, well, you said that the firewood was inconsistent too. Well, you're right, but with the firewood, at least we have a direction. With the firewood, you're always going to want something that's really soft just to soak up all the edges. With these, some might be squishy like this, and some might be stiff like this. So you could literally go from needing stiff suspension to needing soft suspension or vice versa. These things are so inconsistent. Sometimes they'll poke you up like Larry Loop Out. Sometimes they'll throw you right over the bars. I don't know what to tell you. Don't set your suspension up for these. Just try to get used to them and do the best you can. What we have here is a descending and ascending rock section. These are all large boulders with a lot of big holes in between them. And all the rocks have really bad, really crazy angles with a lot of weird sharp edges. So they're solid, yet still pretty unpredictable. When you're coming down the hill, one of the most important things is going to be your fork height and compression. The reason is you're going to want to lower your forks a little bit and your triple clamps because that's going to make your front tire less prone to dropping into a hole and going over the handlebars. Along with that, a little bit tighter stem, once again, is going to help because it's just going to help deaden all those sharp angles just a little bit, and it's going to take the edge off. Going back up, this is going to place importance back on the rear shock, and the reason is because we want to make sure that all the energy from that motor that we're putting to that rear tire goes to the rear tire and sticks to these rocks and pushes us forward, up, and out of this rock section. Now, what you're going to want to do with your shock is you're going to want to leave your high speed where it is, and then you're going to want to soften up your low speed a little bit. What that is going to do is it's going to soften up the shock just enough to take the edge off a lot of these sharp angles and transfer that energy, but it's also not going to let the shock ride too low where we're in the stiff part of the stroke, since we're going to be weighting that rear tire because we're going up and out. All right guys, well, wrapping things up here. I know a lot of this information can be overwhelming and a bit intimidating. I know it might seem a little ridiculous because you're not going to change your suspension from section to section to section of an EnduroCross track, but what you can do and what I want you to do is you can use this knowledge that I've shared with you today and you can adjust your suspension for the sections of the trail or whatever you ride to help you out. For example, when I go to the EnduroCross races, if I make an adjustment, if any adjustment at all, I will adjust my suspension to cater towards the section of the track that I'm really struggling with. That's gonna help me out in that section, and I'll still be okay everywhere else. So if there's a log or a rock section or anything like that on your regular trail rides, hopefully what I shared with you today, you can apply it to your riding and you can be good to go.